you ever seen a ransom note where the message is spelled out in individual letters cut out of different parts of a newspaper?
Yeah, there's actually a font called Ransom that it's meant to look like that.
Quite a few interpretations of Revelation are formed like a ransom note. Cut a verse from here, another little phrase from somewhere else, something from the Old Testament that has a similar word, and kind of paste it all together into a message string.
So today we're looking at the topic of Armageddon in the Bible.
The whole Bible? How much of the Bible talks about Armageddon? A lot of people are really afraid of this epic battle.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we're really not talking about the entire whole Bible. It's only actually mentioned, the word Armageddon is mentioned in Revelation.
What? Like the whole book of Revelation is about this massive war to obliterate humanity?
No. We're not looking at the whole book of Revelation. It's actually only mentioned in chapter 16.
Wow, like the whole chapter, it describes hand-to-hand slaughter, death around the world, the most awful war imaginable?
Well, no, it really doesn't do that either. It's not the whole chapter. It's more like just one verse at the end of the verse, like one time.
Once?
Yeah, once in the chapter, in the book, one time in the entire Bible.
So let's look at that one verse that mentions Armageddon in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, in chapter 16, in verse 16, at the end of the verse, and see what it actually says about Armageddon. King James and a bunch of versions are fairly vague, and he gathered them into a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon.
The New International and a bunch of other versions is more specific, and they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon.
The Message and a bunch of other versions add some details from other earlier verses, and the frog demons gathered the kings together in a place called in Hebrew Armageddon.
Wait. Who is gathering whom? One person or a group of frog demons? What's going on?
The Greek text is actually quite clear, and there are no variations that exist between the manuscripts. He, a singular verb, gathered them, a plural direct object pronoun, together. In verse 14, the frog demon spirits went out of the mouths of the evil triad to gather the kings together. But in between is verse 15, a quote from Jesus, "Behold, I come like a thief." So unless the rules of grammar are being totally ignored, the singular pronoun he, the one who gathers the kings together, refers to the one who comes like a thief.
Okay, you're making my head hurt. Skip all this grammar stuff. Where's the gigantic battle? Where's the blood? Where's the guts? Where's the gore? Where do we win at the end? And everybody else pays for all of, the nasty world stuff that happens.
That's it. One mention, no follow-up. No massive battle of slaughtering everyone on the surface of the earth. It's just not there.
So we need to cut some ideas and verses out of places in the Bible and paste them here, kind of this silo thing we talked about last week, and create a ransom note to the world.
Right. Cut and paste. People do it all the time, especially preachers who want to craft a narrative of the end of the world that's not actually described anywhere in the Bible itself. Nowhere.
Why do people act that way? Oh, wait a minute. We did a book like that. It just creates fear and anxiety in people who don't really know what it says.
Fear and anxiety. That is a primal motivator in human beings. If a speaker can draw listeners into really strong fear, it is much easier to direct them and to control them. Fear works.
Okay, so we want you to think with us here because this may get a little interesting for you as we present. Armageddon is only mentioned one time, but the Valley of Megiddo is also mentioned a few times in the Old Testament. And the word Armageddon is a Hebrew word for the Valley of Megiddo.
Yeah.
Two references are relevant here. The first one is in 2 Kings 23:29. And it says, the king of Egypt conspired with the king of Assyria, surrounded Josiah, the king of Judah, and murdered him there on the plain of Megiddo, i.e., Armageddon.
Josiah was the one young king in the history of the kings who was bringing the nation back to God through repentance and obedience. He was murdered on the plain of Megiddo or at Armageddon.
Interesting. The other reference worth mentioning today is Zechariah 12:10 through 11. Listen carefully. God says, I will pour out on the house of David a spirit of grace and earnest requests. They will look on me, the one they pierced. They will mourn for him like one who mourns for an only child, and grieve for him as one grieves for a firstborn son. That on that day, the weeping in Jerusalem will be as great as the weeping of Hadad Rimmon in the plain of Megiddo, i.e., Armageddon.
So Armageddon is not about a worldwide destruction of human beings in some super gigantic bloodbath, and you really ought not to be terrified about the obliteration of humanity. The links to Armageddon concern the death of a righteous young king, someone bringing the nation back to repentance and obedience. But that king is murdered by the rulers of the age on Armageddon.
But are we really doing the same thing when we talk about the silo stuff and creating a ransom note out of a different verse and verses?
No. This is an understanding that John assumes those who are hearing this play in reference to Armageddon already understand in this context. Now, we're going to get to that in a couple of weeks, especially when we get to Revelation 16, same chapter, verse 17, the next verse in context.
And so as we share the hope with you of experiencing Revelation, we have more projects to come as we launch this together.
Experiencing Revelation is a book that is going to launch on February 1, 2022 as a print-on-demand or an ebook on Amazon and an audiobook on Audible.
If you like or follow this page or channel, you'll get new posts when we put them up. So this is West Coast Mike.
And East Coast Mike. Till then, see ya.